Okay, same question. Do you think the oddly shaped city limits is a problem? And if so, what do you think are the biggest causes? Do you think the city's long-range plan addresses these issues?
Well, learned a new word when I joined city government, and it's called contiguous, which basically means to be annexed in, you have to be contiguous to something that's already in the city. You can have a little strip that would go for, 500 feet, and then a bigger complex outside of that. What probably, and what Butch is referring to too, we kind of made, and this goes back in history, maybe 20 years, maybe even more, the developer said, once we get the city services, we will annex into the city. That's a developer. But then that developer sold a house to individuals, and these different individuals didn't necessarily want to do that right then. I mean, why do it? They've already getting the services. Why come in? Well, I think we're going to try to change that, and I do hope. I've seen the map, and you're right. We discussed this earlier. We should be able to fill in some of those gaps to make a contiguous city. However, to take some of the people in that said, or the developers that said, yes, we want to come in the first place.
All right. Another question here. The city has allowed limited alcohol sales for restaurants that serve food. Are you pleased with the status quo? Or would you try to change the alcohol ordinance to allow more or less availability in Murray? Bill.
I get to go first?
Yes.
I know when we did that, we didn't do it in the first place. I mean, this was a state law. We could set what the rate was going to be, what the tax was going to be, if you want to put it that way. And at the time, Don Elias was our city manager, and he said, well, I think Madisonville has 5 or 6%. And Jay Morgan was on the city council at the time, and I sat beside him and I said, if we're going to do this, let's get some money out of this for the city. We set it at 8%. If they wanted to drive south or whatever else they wanted to do, fine. 8% wasn't any big deal, I didn't think. And as it turned out, I think that we're getting probably between $10,000 and $12,000 a month because of this. To increase the sales, it's not. You mean time-wise? The only exception that we've made that I can remember in the last 3 or 4 years has been a 15-minute extension when New Year's Eve fell on a date, not a Sunday, that we could extend it to 12:15. I thought that kind of made sense. I didn't want to hurt the restaurants and so on to do that. And by the way, we are policing those different restaurants that have these licenses to make sure that they're following that. But the $10,000 to $12,000 a month for this, I think, has been helpful to the city, and I think I'm glad that it was at 8% at the time. That's the only thing. Once it was passed, it wasn't the city council that did it. That was the people of Murray actually that voted on that. We just had to implement it, and that's why we came up with the 8%.
All right. Again, for Butch, the city of Murray has allowed a limited alcohol sales for restaurants that serve food. Are you pleased with the status quo there, or will you try to change the ordinance to allow more or less availability in Murray?
I want to start off by saying this. My granddad was an alcoholic. My dad was an alcoholic, and I was heading down that same road. And at 45 years old, there were some things that happened in my life that changed my life, and I don't drink alcohol today. But I believe that, and matter of fact, there was a time that I signed a petition for alcohol in this community back before I ran in 1989, and I believe that because I drank is what really cost me that election, because I lost to Bill Cherry by 400 votes in that election. And I've had questions asked to me today, or I've had people say to me today, well, when you get in there as mayor, you're just going to do away with all the alcohol because you're a preacher now. And I want people to know that I am a preacher, but part of that statement is not the truth. I don't boycott our restaurants because they sell alcohol. And matter of fact, this alcohol law that we have in place, which, by the way, was voted in by the people, not by the mayor or the city council. And it's in place, and it's working very well. Our police department seems to have things under control. We have little issues here and there, but it seems to be a working thing for the city of Murray. However, I want people to understand that the people vote this law in, and it would be my position in bills to enforce the laws that the people vote in. The state of Kentucky is the one that regulates the sale of alcohol beverages. The city of Murray, through the city council, which again is a vote of the city council, we can regulate hours of operation and some of the operation things, which is a good thing. And Bill and I both have been involved in some of those votes of how to allow them to operate. And I'm not against this deal, but I wanted people to know my personal feelings. But my personal feelings don't matter in this. The mayor has no control over alcohol in this city.